Just in case, though, Manderley wants you to pick an additional weapon. A sniper rifle, a GEP gun, or a mini-crossbow. The crossbow. Sometimes you've got to make a silent takedown.
That's him. These guys aren't so tough.
This gadget right here, this is one of the silliest weapons in gaming history. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. Certainly doesn't look all that silly. Plus, gaming history is absolutely littered with strange and wacky weapons. For as long as we've been shooting digital baddies with guns, there have been whimsical devs who thought, wait a second, we aren't bound by any rules of reality here. We could be shooting anything with anything. Bullets? How pedestrian. We should be shooting sharks, radioactive toast, or terrible dubstep. Our guns could talk, or be shoved up cats' bums, or shoot other guns. There is no physical constraint on how daft a weapon can get. But any true connoisseur of the ridiculous knows that being silly on purpose is infinitely less fun than being silly by mistake. No Sharknado or any other piece of intentionally goofy garbage will ever be as funny as, say, The Room, because trying to make a serious drama and accidentally making a farce is far funnier than aiming at making a farce in the first place.
How much is it?
It'll be $18.
Here you go. Keep the change. Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Which is why I truly believe that this, Deus Ex 1's mini-crossbow, loaded up with tranquilizer darts, is the silliest weapon I've ever encountered in a game. Now, once upon a time, I wouldn't have had to introduce Deus Ex. It used to be immovable from the top of best game of all time lists. A seemingly indelible part of nerd culture. But now, 25 years later, those of us left who still describe themselves as fans have, along with the back pain and the fear and resentment of anything new happening in science or culture, increasingly bad memories, so a quick primer is probably in order. You play as JC Denton, bio-augmented superhuman on a mission to untangle a convoluted web of conspiracy and intrigue. All set in a world which can be neatly summarised as what if every major 2000s era conspiracy theory was true, and also bipedal robots turned out to be super effective rather than just a marketing gimmick. To me, and many others, it's a timeless stone-cold classic. A globe-trotting, vent-crawling, cybernetically augmented exemplar of what games can be at their best. It was also incredibly influential, especially when it comes to prioritising player autonomy and choice. You can be a stealthy hacker, a shotgun-wielding tank, and anything in between. When tackling a new objective, do you want to leap across rooftops, crawl through the sewers, or just bust through the front door? Admittedly, most of the choices come down to a choice of crawl through vent or don't, a choice that has plagued the genre ever since, but still, this choice-based RPG-like design proved to be unbelievably influential over the next 3 decades of gaming. And the choices in Deus Ex start right from the off. We are dropped onto Liberty Island and tasked with, well, liberating it from a small army of pesky terrorists who've taken it over. Who knows what they are so cross about? Something about you and your organisation being behind the intentional spread of a horrific super plague that is destroying the whole world, but I'm sure that's nothing to worry about. We're dropped off with a 9mm pistol, an electric stun and prod, but as the man JC points out,
All I've got with me is a pistol and an electric prod. I don't mind a test, but UNATCO better issue some hardware.
luckily, our brother Paul is here too, racing towards us with slightly terrifying speed and single-mindedness. And he's here with a gift, a starter Pokemon, a choice of 3 useful weapons. Option 1, the GEP gun, an incredibly destructive homing rocket launcher. Fantastic at destroying robots, opening doors when you've lost your keys, and making lots of work for cleaning staff. Option 2, the sniper rifle. Does exactly what you'd expect, though if you've not put some points into rifle skill, then hitting anything with it will feel like playing drunken darts with a blindfold on. And then, there's option 3, the mini-crossbow, preloaded with a rack of tranquilizing darts. Now, if I gave you a weapon describing itself as a tranquilizing crossbow in a game, what would you expect to happen if you shot someone with it? Seems like a pretty obvious question, right? Well, if you've played Deus Ex, you know where I'm going with this, but shh, don't spoil it for the rest of the class. Stealth action games have loads of tranquilizer-type weapons, and every time I've encountered them, they work roughly the same way. You shoot someone, they go to sleep, easy. A stealthy, non-violent alternative to something much more grisly. And it's a crossbow, which normally means that the weapon is even stealthier, as you'd expect the discharge to be silent. or at least a lot quieter than a firearm. Normally, there's some kind of downside to weapons like these in other games to make them a less obvious choice. Perhaps limited ammunition, a severely limited range, long reload time, or all of the above. But the baseline functionality is always the same. Shoot baddie, baddie go sleep. This is how we've been primed to expect these weapons to work, not just in games, but in popular culture too. And Deus Ex itself seems like it's going to stay in this lane. You've got these three choices, strongly implied to be equally tactically useful, but different in their function. Gep gun for heavy armour, sniper rifle for ranged combat, and the crossbow because, in JC's own words,
Sometimes you've got to make a silent takedown.
So, let's take our fancy new armament for a spin, check out these silent takedowns. Ah look, our first victim. Slowly we sneak up, stalking him for a while, finding our perfect moment to strike. Probably overdoing it, to be honest. Your average Deus Ex guard is so deaf and short-sighted that it's amazing they're able to navigate, but anyway. We find our perfect angle, steady our aim, and nail this guy straight in the chest. But nope, not only does the dart do nothing apart from annoy him for a second, he instantly knows where we are, spins on his heels, and shoots us directly in the face. For reference, here's how long it takes the same guard to react if you run directly at him and start gyrating on him like a pervert in a nightclub.
Uh-oh.
Did we accidentally hit him with an amphetamine dart? Let's try tagging someone from far away, see if we can work out what on earth is happening here, or at least not be immediately spotted and killed. Okay, this guy seems perfect. Let's slowly line up our shot. Quick sidebar, I love the skill system in Deus Ex, but what justification could there possibly be for reaching max accuracy after sitting still for a full 10 seconds? This can't be a physical constraint that's restricting his aim, it's got to be JC giving himself a motivational talking to or something, but anyway. We silently loose off the dart and, wow, still immediately aware of our position, even though we're 50 feet away in darkness, firing insults and bullets at us. At least he's far enough away that he's missing them, well, with the bullets at least, the mean words still hurt. And oh look, his friend has heard the commotion and is obviously getting involved too. Brilliant. How, again, was this meant to be for stealthy takedowns? Am I being pranked by you, Natco? Is giving me a joke weapon meant to be part of my training? And the dart appears to have again done nothing to him. Oh wait, did you see that? He flinched and yelled in pain. There, it happened again. And again. And now he's fleeing in terror, trying in vain to outrun whatever horrific fate I've inflicted on him. Still getting hit by waves of unexplained agony. What the hell did they do to this dude? Paul? Paul, what is in these darts you gave me? Finally, he collapses, and if we check the body, the game assures us he's only unconscious, but like, really? Are you sure? Did you see what we just did to him? I'm no anaesthetist, but if someone was screaming in pain and running around in terror after they were just injected with something, my first thought wouldn't be, yep, classic sedative behaviour. So what the heck is happening here? Well, this bizarre behaviour comes down to a combination of NPC limitations and an absolutely baffling implementation. So Deus Ex can handle non-lethal damage being produced. For example, the Humble Baton is a 7 damage melee weapon, but all damage produced is tagged as non-lethal. So if you finish someone off with it, you'll be left with an unconscious body rather than a corpse. Well, the damage produced by tranquilizer darts is also tagged as non-lethal. This much makes sense. But some bright spark on the development team thought that the Tranq dart should not deliver all of its damage in one go. Who knows why? Maybe it felt too overpowered in testing, or maybe it was an attempt at a more realistic implementation. After all, in the real world, sedatives would never work instantly, I guess. I know, they thought. Let's make it a damage over time effect. Unfortunately for good sense, but fortunately for those who like a bit of farce in their grim cyberpunk adventures, whoever this dev was won the argument, so here's how they decided to model it. An initial hit from a Tranq dart does a paltry 5 damage, but your victim will take another 5 damage to the chest every 2 seconds, up to a max of 40. Enough, once locational damage concerns are accounted for, to knock out all but the hardiest of opponents. But this semi-sensible seeming implementation leads to the absolutely ridiculous behaviour we see in-game for a couple of simple reasons. Firstly, though in the game data, Deus Ex does differentiate between lethal and non-lethal damage when deciding whether to produce an unconscious body or a corpse, NPCs don't differentiate at all in their reactions, apart from at the point of death or unconsciousness. which is fine most of the time. No one cares if NPCs yell in the same pained way when hit with a lethal knife versus a non-lethal baton. I'm sure the baton still hurts. It's only with the tranquilizer that it seems ridiculous, with them grunting in pain at a completely consistent 2-second interval in response to... what? Getting really, really sleepy? Who knows? Maybe everyone yells in pain in this universe when it's close to bedtime, but it looks so absurd. Secondly, while Deus Ex's enemy AI is actually fairly complex, capable of investigating disturbances and unexplained sounds without immediately knowing there's a threat, they don't use any of that sophistication when actually damaged. As soon as you tag them with anything, they are immediately aware of you and act accordingly. Again, probably a decision made for sensible balance reasons, but it's kryptonite to our tranquilizer darts. Incidentally, this is why the stealth pistol also sucks for stealth, because it's incapable of one-hit kills even with headshots. So even though it's silent, anyone you hit will still be pretty cross and likely make their feelings known before you land the next shot. Shout out to Bacon Hero for their excellent video dunking on the stealth pistol. Finally, enemies fleeing at low health is a nice touch in normal gameplay. Makes people feel more human, makes combat feel more morally murky. Perfect for the type of story that Deus Ex is telling. But with the tranquilizer darts, it just falls apart as a system. Even overlooking that it makes it look like they get a massive burst of energy right before passing out. Like, what's your plan, guy? Even if you realise what's happening to you, what could running away possibly accomplish? Are you looking for a bed? Which is why this weapon, sold to you as the tool for efficient, stealthy takedowns, ends up functioning as anything but. It's genuinely more stealthy to set people on fire. At least then they aren't turning alarms on and firing back at you. Now to me, there are so many layers to the silliness of this weapon. Well, we've covered its immediate function, the obviously bizarre effect it has on people, especially when juxtaposed with the way it's described. But if it was just brokenly bad, then you would use it once, have a laugh, and then never touch it again, but it actually isn't. So long as you do a runner after firing it, almost all opponents will be fast asleep well before catching up with you. But this obviously feels so daft. You're meant to be this smooth, tactically dominant force, striking decisively from the shadows. Shooting people with darts, then scampering away while they shout insults after you feels like the way Bugs Bunny would deal with this situation. And again, this is not some cheesy niche strategy. This is the only way of using one of the 3 starter weapons in this game. Anyone who tries to stand their ground when using this thing is going to be kicked straight back to the main menu. I love thinking about all of the new players who like the sound of playing an unseen stealth machine and were forced into this nonsense. And finally, the ultimate level of silliness is just the existence of it at all in the final game. Why on earth was this left in? Why was this offered as one of the 3 starting weapons? It's not like Deus Ex is short of guns. Why not offer the stealth pistol or the crossbow with regular darts? Surely anyone with the slightest bit of sense would have playtested this thing and said, "What on earth is this?" Scrapped it and probably brought the designer in who made it for a stern talking to. But no, here it is for all time. An unignorably absurd design decision jammed into the opening minutes of one of the greatest and most important video games of all time. So, does this ridiculous weapon make Deus Ex any worse as a game? Yeah, of course not. This is one of the greatest games of all time. If its terrible boxy visuals, which looked bad even at release, couldn't hold it back, one poorly implemented gun obviously isn't going to. Is this nevertheless an absurd inclusion that any sensible designer would have shot behind the chemical sheds months before release? Also, yes, and I defy anyone to make the case for them not being daft. Yeah, Deus Ex fans, tranquilizers would not realistically be instant, but come the heck on, just look at this behaviour and tell me it's not slightly immersion-shattering. Do I have anything clever or interesting to say about the ramifications of this choice? Am I going to do any of my usual musing stroke yapping about what this means for the game and game design at large? Nope. It just makes me smile, and I thought it might do the same for you. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Love you. Bye!